Oh, just living the dream.
Same.
It's good. We went from real cold to instantly hot, and summer's here now. So
Are you in Nashville as well then?
no, I'm in Utah.
Oh, okay. Same. The reason I was asking is because it's like we skipped spring altogether and went right into like dead hot summer season.
Yeah, it
So
was really weird. Like a week ago, maybe it snowed
yeah,
here, right? And then like today it was 83 degrees. I was like, okay, whatever. That's cool.
that's
I guess
insane.
it's summertime.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's insane. I mean,
Yeah.
being from Canada, that's definitely something that I have a hard time getting used to because we have like a solid 4 seasons where I'm from. So
Yeah. Yeah. Which
here,
part which part of Canada are you from?
British Columbia.
Oh,
So,
okay.
but I'm like further north of Vancouver.
Yeah.
So we definitely get like a full long winter and a good spring, and then summer is only 2 months, and then it's fall, and long
See,
ass winter again.
that's my problem is I summer is my favorite time of year. So a short summer sounds awful, but
Yeah,
some people love it. So to each their own, right?
the lake gets so busy though in Canada where I'm from because it's like everybody's
Yeah.
all day long, every day of the week
Yeah,
until
you've got a really
you
condensed period of time to get on there. So
gotta get your money's worth for your boat, man.
yeah, that's the one that I never understand is like honestly, I've never understood a whole lot of the toys anyway. Like I think they're fun, but renting them makes sense to me. But
Yeah,
the idea that of buying one of these things and like storing it for 9 months out of the year
yeah.
just doesn't make sense to me.
I know my dad's got a couple of the toys. He loves fishing and stuff like that. And given he does go out in the spring and in the fall and stuff too, so he makes good use of his. But good grief, I don't know. It's not toys are not my jam either. Like things that have like snowmobiles and all kinds of stuff like that. And I'm just like, my brother has like ATVs, and I'm like,
Mhm.
why? I don't
Yeah.
know. I'd rather have like pretty dresses and musical instruments. So
Yeah, I would rather just like for me it always comes down to like I'd rather not have a monthly payment on something
yeah.
like cuz I don't know, maybe your family was awesome and paid for it in cash cuz some people, they are able to. But a lot of people I know they're financing these things. I'm like, "Man, y'all are crazy."
Yeah.
I can't.
My family is not the type to pay for things in cash, so they're the financiers as well. And I agree. I'm like, wow, why are you going into debt for something you can use 2 months out of the year?
Yeah,
I don't get
exactly. Well, to rein it back in real quick, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast. I really
Oh,
appreciate it.
thanks for having me. I appreciate being here.
Absolutely. Well, I always like to just start out with quick introduction, tell the people
Yeah.
who you are and, elementary school style. Tell them something unique that people may not know about you.
Well, I guess that means I shouldn't tell them I'm a singer. My name is Cash Crawford. I am a Canadian living in the southern United States in Nashville, Tennessee. And what's something you don't know about me? I'm secretly blonde under here.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
My
You've,
natural color is a lot lighter. So there you go. That's a secret.
you've hit it well. Because all the images I saw, they were all dark hair. So,
I'm a cosmetologist by trade, so I know how to hide it well.
oh, gotcha. Yeah, I mean, I just went to a new barber today, so I'm hoping that like there were some things that were good, some really good
Yeah.
things, and some not so good things. So, there's always, there's a lot of different qualities of cosmetologists. So it sounds like you're one who knows what they're talking about. So
I mean, I've been one for a minute, so I just I get to use all the tricks of the trade on my own head. So I
there
don't have
you go.
to worry about other people's hair so much anymore now that I'm doing music. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of nice, right? But you always have that to add to your repertoire of skills.
Exactly. If the zombie apocalypse ever hits, I can at least give people haircuts in exchange for fruit or something.
Hey, the barter system, who knows,
Exactly. We'll go back to cowboy trading.
yeah, with the way the world's going, barter system may come into handy more than what some people would think.
True. It's absolutely true.
Oh man. So you have been doing music for quite a while though, right?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much my whole life. I started singing, like my parents have tapes of me singing when I was in my high chair still. So I was like not even forming full sentences yet. Um,
Love it.
so I've been singing since I was that age. And then I think probably started writing, I mean, just like being a little kid, making up my own stuff when I was like 7-ish, and then started actually really like trying to write things when I was about 11. And then, yeah, I mean, I've been singing in church since I was a child. And as soon as I was able to get out into the quote unquote real world, I've been singing in pubs and bars and nightclubs and weddings and stuff since I was 18. So, and I'm going to be 41 this year. So long time.
Awesome. That's
Mhm.
fantastic. Say child again.
Child.
Yeah. Okay. There's your. There, you got a little bit of Nashville coming out, and when you say child.
Yeah, yeah. It's I'm one of those phonetic people that I tend to depends on who I hang out with. If I'm hanging out with my Canadian family, I have a Canadian accent. If I'm hanging out with my Southern friends, I speak full on Southern.
Love it. Yeah, when you said child, I was like, you wouldn't have guessed that you were from Canada. Like it
I
sounded
know.
like because I lived in Houston for quite a while and I never picked up on the drawl. Like
No?
y'all is my favorite. I love that word, but I didn't pick up
Yeah.
on the Southern drawl at all. And and so, it
I
was whenever I talk to people, I always wanted, I was like, man, that'd be kind of cool to talk like that. But
yeah.
I just
It's
never picked it up.
it's not something I do on purpose. I think it's just like I was also a voice actor for a little while, and I kind of took on an American accent, just being in, and I'm also from the West Coast, so we don't have thick Canadian accents there anyways. But it just depends on who I'm like spending a lot of my time with. I end up kind of picking up some of their nuances, and I think that's kind of, it's been a blessing and a curse because my family can always tell who I'm hanging out with, but at the same time, at the same time, I'm also able to like I've also been able to learn vocally that way. So I've like used the talents of like Mariah Carey and Whitney Houston, Lauryn Hill, all those women, and picked up their nuances and their vocal runs and stuff because I've been able to learn like that kind of way very much by ear. So
That's really cool.
yeah,
So I'm curious because obviously we've got there's a lot to cover here
yeah,
between your your run in Canada, then your move down to Nashville. Um, but I'm curious on the non-music side, the voice acting, was that brought to you from your music career? How did that come about in your kind of trajectory from cosmetologist to
yeah. I
voice
know,
actor?
a lot of life. Well, the thing is, the thing about cosmetology is that my parents, I come from a family of blue collar workers, and everybody has a trade, and so it was kind of just, my parents just kind of encouraged me to have something that I could always fall back on. And I'm not a backup plan kind of person. I'm like an all or none. I've
Hmm.
got big dreams, and I want to put, dive headfirst into the pool of dreams. But my mom is very practical, and she was like, absolutely go for it. But why don't you do something that's like a short term little stint in school so that you have a trade under your belt, and if you ever need to fall back on it, it's there. So those are very, very wise words. I'm really glad that I ended up doing that, just because now she's right. I do always have it. But
Hmm.
after that, within the voice acting stuff, I mean, doing little voices and being a quote unquote cartoon character is kind of something that I always have done. And so I've had a couple of friends encourage me to check out that world and see if that would be something that I was interested in. And turns out I was actually okay at it. I never really booked anything major. I've done like a few tiny little things, but nothing that you'd be like, oh yeah, that's me on that. I once got to try out for Siri, and that was really fun for a commercial. I never booked that one, but yeah, I mean,
But
just
you got to try out. That's cool.
exactly. You get to audition, and but now I'm getting too busy with music stuff, so I don't really have time to hit any auditions anyways. So I kind of had to pull back from that, and maybe I'll get back into it down the line. Who knows? It's a good source of income without having to go far or do anything much. So
Yeah, yeah. I
so
mean, I guess, yeah, as long as you got a little sound booth in your
yeah.
house, right? You're ready to roll.
Exactly. And you do send a couple takes in, and they take which one they want, and away you go.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm always just like I always find it fun to kind of see there's so many different avenues for artists, right? And for you, you said at 18 you bust out, you start playing bars and doing a bunch of like kind of the um wha- I don't what's the best, like the bootstrapping method, right? The method where it's like I'm going to make this thing work and I'm going to push it beyond what a normal person is willing to push it to, right? Cuz a
Yeah.
lot of times when you're doing those weddings and bars, like those are grind, like very grindy. You're doing not your own music a lot of times. You're really just playing for hours and hours and hours, like stressing yourself to the max.
Yeah.
So 18 years old, you jumped right in. What was it that kind of kickstarted that, got you to make that commitment?
I mean, I just definitely, I don't think it was ever a commitment for me. I think it's always been something that I've had to do.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
just because, like, singing is definitely like a therapy for me. It's been one of my major outlets as far as like creativity goes, and helping me maintain somewhat of a semblance of sanity. But I mean, I was like heavily involved in church, and I still was at that point. I was singing in church all the time. I was just basically singing to anyone that would listen. And the pubs and the bars and the weddings and stuff like that can be really tough because your background noise for the most part. But you'll find those like one or two people, maybe even more than that sometimes, that just are enthralled by what you're doing and just
Mhm.
absolutely pay attention. And I've had people come up to me at the end of those kinds of gigs and be like, you sang this song that my dad and I used to sing, and I lost him recently, and it just changed my whole day. And I'm just like, I got to be part of that change and that journey for them, or that catalyst that switched that sadness into some joy for them. And
Mhm.
and that's the kind of stuff that makes it all worth it. So sometimes it's very soul sucking, and you've got to just kind of push through those ones, because you do get those little nuggets of moments where you have an opportunity to change somebody's day.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's incredible, and I mean, that's ultimately, like, why music is so universal, right? Like, why you can go from Canada, obviously, Canada and the US are very similar in a lot of ways, but why you could go from Canada to really anywhere in the world, and even if they don't speak your language, they can kind of resonate with what you're singing, because it's such a universal language. And obviously, when you're able to touch people's hearts like that, that's pretty inspiring.
Yeah.
And when you like, because you kind of talked about, the soul sucking nature at times, do you kind of rely on those moments, or when you're getting through those, like going through those moments where it just feels like maybe it's getting a little bit more than what you anticipated, or what you might feel like you can handle, what is it that you grasp onto to keep you motivated and rolling forward?
I think those are the times where I have to remind myself that sometimes this is a job. Do you know what I mean? Like, sometimes
Mhm.
we don't always love all aspects of our jobs. And sometimes when I have those moments, that's where I'm like, you know what? I'm still sitting in front of people singing, and I'm still getting paid to do this. So I do have something to be thankful for. I always try to find the silver lining in the things that are difficult, because the difficult things are there to teach us, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, those soul sucking days, or those times where I'm just like not getting anything out of it. That's where I have to realize that I actually am getting something out of it. I'm actually getting paid to physically be there. And
Mhm.
so that's when it becomes a bit more like a job or like work for me. But at the same time, I mean, I still that's when I kind of just like, I do the songs that are obviously, like, we do requests and stuff. I mean, that's kind of my full-time job down in Nashville, and we do a lot of requests and stuff like that. But that's where it's very important for me to sprinkle in the songs that lift my soul up. Like right now,
Mhm.
I'm obsessed with singing Cold by Chris Stapleton. We take it way up, so I get to sing all kinds of fun high notes. But like, I feel like when we're losing a crowd, I'll sing a song like that just to pull myself back in, because if I pull myself back in, others kind of come along with me just by default. And
Yeah.
it ends up kind of pulling people into the show that way, that weren't necessarily paying attention in the first place, because they can see me singing from a place of um, fulfillment, where I'm like trying to I'm giving myself that opportunity to fill my own soul up, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I've talked about this a couple times. One of my favorite musicians, his name is Steven Christian, from a band called Anberlin, and he talked to me. He's like, realistically, when I'm writing a song, I can't write it for anyone else. I have to write it for myself,
Hmm.
because when you write it for yourself, then other people can attach to it. But if you're writing it for someone else or for something else, then no one can relate to it. And it's the same thing with performing songs. If you are performing something that you are holding near and dear, then other people, it's almost like a natural empathy that people will have with what
Yeah.
you're feeling. Cause it's like, I mean, I there that's one of the things that COVID was really tough with, right? Was like those digital shows, the live streamed ones. It just kind of missed the mark, because there was no way to really feel the energy of the synergy that
Yeah.
you're feeling in a live setting. And for you, when when you first started, back 18 years old, what is that? You said that's is that 23 years now for you?
Yeah, the internet wasn't a thing really. You know,
Yeah.
like we didn't have Zoom and we didn't have any way to do those kinds of things. And I never had to experience that disconnect of not having a crowd because you're right, there is such an energy exchange there.
Mhm.
And we both kind of feed off of each other. And without that, I was like, I found the digital shows and like the live streams and stuff, I found them really, really taxing. They're
Yeah.
very, very hard to do because they're so dry. Like
Yeah.
there's no life giving you, there's nobody giving you life back on the other side of it. Even though
Yeah.
you're seeing the comments and stuff like that, and people are requesting the songs and stuff, you're still not seeing faces and reactions and, people
Yeah,
just
and that's the thing too is, because based on what you were talking about, like, and based on the type of career you've had, the crowd is essential,
yeah.
right? Some bands, like, they can have an off night and it's okay, they're just touring and they've got other bands to support them, but you're kind of the lone wolf up there, right? Like, you're kinda like, you have to carry this energy,
Yep.
especially in those bars and pubs and weddings, like, you are the only energy that there is, right?
Yep. Yep. I'm
So
the party ambassador is like what I like to call myself.
I love that. That's a great title. Yeah. It's like I was, sorry, side tangent. I apologize. I side tangent a lot, but I was looking at some funny memes the other day, and there was a meme for Darth Vader, and it was like assistant to the Emperor, right? And that was like his regular what he actually is, right?
Yeah.
And it was like his LinkedIn profile, and it went through all these different titles, right? Like leader of Death Star 1 and 2 and all these different titles. It's hilarious. And so I was just thinking of that for you. It's like, and what would you say? Ambassador,
Party ambassador.
party ambassador,
Yeah.
cosmetologist, all these. And I just think of like the LinkedIn profile. It would be awesome
Yeah.
to see.
A million different hats in that profile for sure, man.
That's incredible. When
Yeah.
like I am like, kind of going all the way back in time though, back to when you were 18 and you started going. Um, Tell me just kind of a brief history, from when you started and to now where it's a career for you. That's a pretty big leap for most people. Music can't be a career. They aren't really making a career out of it. So how did that work for you? What was kind of this journey that you took to get to being a career musician?
I mean, I think it's been a lot of bumps in the road. It's been a lot of trying to just make it work where I can. It's been a lot of support from friends, living on their couches and, finding places to squat here and there. Um, a little back and forth to mom and dad's here and there. Um, I think it's been kind of a bit of a there hasn't been any kind of sense of regular 9 to 5 and like building the bank account and the white picket fence. Like that's I feel like as a musician, that's really hard to do until you get to the point where you're making the big bucks because that's kind
Mhm.
of like something that we make a lot of sacrifices that way in order to be able to create our art. I certainly don't regret any of that. I got married and divorced real young. I never had any kids. I was just always pouring myself into the music scene and trying to get plugged in wherever I could. Fortunately for me, I have a little bit of talent and I've been able to, work my way up and
I would say a lot, but yeah, you can
get
say a little if you'd like.
get to some places that I really wanted to get to, and some doors have just kind of opened, especially coming here in Nashville. You can honestly easily make a living here and still have somewhat normal life because the music never dies in this town. But I don't know. I mean, I think the service industry was a real big part of that for me too, because it allowed me to. I was a bartender and a server for years, and it allowed me to have the flexibility and the freedom to also be doing the shows and stuff like that on the days that I needed to book off. And
Yeah.
I would assume kind of like LA with the actors, a lot of them work in restaurants and bars as well, just to kind of,
Mhm.
float the pocketbook, so to speak. So
Yep.
yeah, I mean, I did my best to make it work. And I had a lot of help along the way. I'm certainly not discrediting anybody who has ever let me sleep on their couch. I've called my parents for money before, I've borrowed money off my siblings. And It is what it is. I mean, at the end of the day, I've had lots of help and lots of support, and I'm hoping to one day just be able to give it all back to them and let them know how much I appreciated that because they made some sacrifices alongside me for me being able to do this too. So,
Absolutely.
mhm.
Yeah, I mean, I am curious with, you said your whole family is kind of blue collar.
Yeah,
Um, a lot of times the attitude of blue collar is one of the coolest. It's the I'm gonna make this thing work.
yeah,
It's I'm gonna fix this. I'm going to find a solution. It's very solution oriented.
yes,
As a group of people, like it's always we're gonna help each other. It's very team oriented. For you, like, was there ever a time where like your parents were like, "Hey, let's go to that backup plan of cosmetology," or was it always just gung ho? Hey, whatever we can do to help.
I think it's been a little bit of both along the way. I think there's kind of been like I mean, my little sister is a musician too, and I think that she has also experienced this. It's kind of like I think it's been stressful for our parents because it's been difficult for us too, right? And your parents want to see you settled, they want to see you happy, and they want to see you safe. And
Mhm,
the happiness has always been there, but the happiness is hard to have when you don't feel secure
mhm.
and when you don't have financial security. There's that whole balance, right? So I've gone through periods, and so has my sister, where we've just like not been able to like I'm not knowing where I'm gonna have my next meal come from. Do you know what I mean? Like we've been through that, and that's the point where we've had to call parents, and parents have been like, okay, that's why you have this trade. Go get a job hairdressing somewhere. Go get a job in a bar. But that being said, too, my father is and my mom, they've just taught us to hustle, and I don't think that they really ever intended to do that. I think it's just kind of like we've always been able to go out and get jobs. My dad is super personable, my mom is very practical, and I have both of those sides, and
Mhm.
I've always been able to utilize those skills and those things that both of they have that I can make it work for myself. So I've always been able to, no matter where I land. Sorry, my nose ring is bugging me.
No, you're good.
Where no matter where I land, I've always been able to go jump out, grab a bar job somewhere, and make really quick money to be able to get myself supported and on my feet, and then jump back into music. So
Yeah.
I think I've got a bit of that hustler in me too. And so does my little sister, like it's just I think that's part of the musician thing too, is like you gotta grind and you gotta grind in ways that you don't want to somehow so that you can down the line
Yeah.
be where you
I
want to.
I mean, I'm convinced that musicians are some of the hardest working people I've ever talked to, I've ever met, because it's it's not just like the hard work, because it is obviously a lot of work, like you said, there's days where it is more work than fun,
Yeah,
but not just that, but there's so much more to it. There's a lot of emotional work that's going in. There's the physical work, but then
yeah,
there's a lot of kind of there's stresses that musicians face that a lot of people don't face, where it's like uh most people don't have to worry about like a writer's block or a creative block or not feeling it that day. You can't just phone it in. Like uh, almost every night is like a resume, right? It's like the next show depends on how this show goes.
yeah.
Um, and for you, when you feel like things are just kind of spiraling, how is it that you have, you've obviously said you're able to get yourself back on your feet by kind of using your skills. Um, but how is it that you find yourself motivated to get back to the music?
I don't. Again, I think it's just like it's in my blood. So it's never been trying to get back to the music. I've actually tried to run from it, to be completely.
Oh, interesting.
I've quit doing music on a few occasions for a couple of years at a time, and I just like I end up going crazy. I end up like spiraling into depression. And this last time, I mean, over COVID, I had no choice. I had to quit doing music, and
Yeah.
I struggled with depression. I don't think I've ever been so mentally unstable in my entire life. Like I got to the point where I was going to see a psychiatrist and stuff because I was like, something is wrong with my brain. That I like, it felt like I was just going through this devastating death of a person. And honestly, what it was is that I just couldn't do music. I couldn't write. I couldn't. I couldn't sing in front of people. There was no live audience. There was no any of that. And I just was just spiraling down. And for me with that, it was a lot of talk therapy. And then once I got back to Nashville, there's a lot of resources here for artists and touring musicians and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So I got involved with some of those, and it's been super helpful. But it's just like I don't think it's ever been about going back to the music for me. I think I've tried to fight it a few times and it just doesn't work because it's my purpose as far as I'm
Yeah.
concerned. It's what I've supposed to do. And I mean, I've had this conversation with my aunt and my uncle before because my uncle is very big, like financial retirement. Make sure you got all your ducks in a row and you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I think that's really great. I think that's super smart, and he absolutely should do that. He's built a great little empire, and his sons have kind of grown up in that environment, and they've built really great security for themselves as well. And he had a conversation with me once, and he's like, "What are you going to do for a retirement plan?" And I was like, I don't plan on retiring." And he just looked at me like, "What? Like, well, what are you going to do when you're 70?" I'm like, "I'll be sitting on a stool singing somewhere." And he's like, "In a bar?" I'm like, "If that's what it looks like." And he's like, "Well, you gotta stop seeing sometime." I'm like, "Yep, when my feet are both when I got 2 feet, 6 feet in the ground, that's probably when I'll stop singing." And he's like, "Okay." But I mean, if you had have asked me when I was 5 years old, what do you wanna be when you're older? I said a singer. And I'm still here at 40 trying to do it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I agree with you, back to the musicians are the hardest working. I think we're also confused with flaky just because we will sacrifice a lot of stuff for our art. But I think at the end of the day, for those of us who have it in our bones, we are the most consistent with having to stick with it. Even if we try not to and we try to
Yeah.
break up with it for a little bit, it's like that relationship that just never it comes back around, and it's like you're stuck with it. And it's you make friends with it, you fall in love with it, you fall out of love with it, you fall back in love with it, and it's like a little dance that you just have to learn to do. And
It's the toxic boyfriend, huh?
yeah. Yeah, but then you learn, you grow with it, and you learn how to make it healthy and work for you and all that kind of stuff, depending on if you've done that for yourself. So,
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
I mean, I think that's fantastic though that you've found the resources to kinda support because I know I asked the question kinda almost twice, the same similar question, not the exact same, but I asked it twice because I guess the second answer really explained a lot because I was kind of your not intentionally, but kind of where your uncle's at, right? Like,
yeah,
but but what? But what? Kind of like kind of grasping at straws to try and understand your mindset. But
yeah,
that made so much sense because it's so deeply ingrained into what defines you. When you were talking about like the anxiety, depression, like when you were spiraling there, I was thinking the other way around where it's like all of the difficulties of music would make you spiral, but it's without those things, you lose everything about who
yeah,
you are. So that's really cool. Thank you so much for sharing that.
yeah.
That makes so much more sense to me now. Um, and have like, did it take a long time for like people in your life to grasp this, or was it pretty natural for them to get on board?
I mean, I think at this point, my family doesn't expect anything less.
Did it take a while for them to? Because I mean, obviously you laid the groundwork for your sister, so her life was a lot easier to get into music, I'm sure, like, in
Yeah,
terms of people being like, "Yeah, do it."
yeah. I mean, I think she's been doing it since she was in her early teens, so we've kind of both been like
Oh, same time frames.
working hard at it. I mean, she kind of left it a little bit here and there more so than I did to go have like, the steady 9 to 5 job. She worked for an airline for a while up in Canada, and she worked for Canada Post for a while. So she was like getting into the steady, like long term,
Yeah.
you stay there forever kind of jobs. And just same thing though, like falling apart. And like she's got all this job security and all of this like steady paycheck coming in, all these perks and stuff like that. And she's just like crying all the time. And she's like, "I'm miserable." And I was like, "You need to do music." So I think for her and I, we've been a great support system for each other. I'm also, unfortunately, I've got my dad's stubbornness, and my parents. I mean, I'm really lucky to have a father like I do and a mother, but more so my father is the dreamer in the family. And he kind of always wanted to be a musician as well. So he's kind of always been like, you got to listen to your mom and go to school, but never stop being a musician. You know, okay, we'll figure it out. So, and my mom's like, you've got to be practical and have a backup plan. So it's kind of like my dad's kind of always got like, kind of given us the boot out the door, like, go do it, we'll figure it out. And mom's always kind of been like so we've got that real solid balance. But I think at this point, my family is just like, now the funny thing is actually they kind of like kicked me back to Nashville in a really nice way. They really encouraged me to just come back here after I was up in Canada for a while because they saw how awful I was doing. And now they're seeing me thrive, and like I've been able to pay off my car really quick and like put a bunch of money in savings, and just like now because I'm doing something that I love and I'm creating music that I really care about, I've been able to work from a place of joy and a place of love, and that's creating abundance for me. So I think that they're kind of seeing that I need to be able to do something that makes me happy in order to be quote unquote successful, and feel secure in what it is that I want to do with my life. So they've kind of stopped pushing their agendas on me, and they quit that. Hey, stop it. Sorry, we've got a little kitty in here.
No, totally fine.
They've kind of stopped pushing those expectations and agendas. And we've had conversations about it too, where I'm like, being a parent doesn't mean you get to place your hopes and dreams on another person. You have to encourage the hopes and dreams in them instead of, I mean, if my mom had her way, I'd have 3 kids, live in my hometown, and probably be a nurse. And that's like, I would be miserable. So, but I would be close to her and she would love that. And I would love to be able to go for lunch with her all the time. But, I got to do what I've got to do. It makes me feel happy. And at the end of the day, that's really all that they want for us. So
That's so cool.
yeah.
I love that you did the quote unquote success,
Yeah.
because that the definition of success is so misconstrued. I think, like there's so many different versions of success, and
Mhm.
like each person's success is so tightly hinged on what if they're actually pursuing something that truly brings them joy. And what you're doing, that is success.
I agree.
Whether you're financially quote unquote successful is a whole other thing. And that's, you know, this is the dream right now that you're in, right? Where it's both.
Yeah.
That's the ultimate dream. But the fact is, like, even if you only have one of those two, as long as you feel like you're accomplishing your purpose or what you feel like, man, that is success. And
Yeah.
that's what I'm like. I've got 2 sons, and I'm like, that's all I really care. I want them to just understand that.
Yeah. I think
That's it.
success looks different for everyone too. And I think that's what we also have to get out of is like the 2.5 kids and the white picket fence isn't success for everybody. For me, I don't own a home, and I don't know if I necessarily want to,
Yeah.
because of the lifestyle that I choose for myself. I don't know. I think that home would end up owning me. Um,
Mhm.
and I think that I really want the kind of, I mean, the type of person that needs like my safe space, but I also don't mind that safe space being a place on wheels where I can bring it to my shows and tour around and have my little home with me wherever I go.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that would be that's something that I would consider myself successful in, is just having, a little space that I feel secure in, and I get to play music everywhere for anyone that wants to listen. And hopefully the real goal is to provide some healing for, people with broken emotions. And that I would say
Yeah.
that, a good 99.9% of the population, and help them feel some things, connect to themselves, and understand that they don't have to have that quote unquote success in a box either,
Yep.
So
Yeah. And it's okay to not have it all figured out right off the rip. Like, man, there's patience. Like the amount of patience you've had to get to the point where you're at is like a lot of people. I don't know how many people really have enough patience to say, all right, I know it's going to take in and out of the scene. It's going to take going and doing jobs that I hate in order to provide for this life that I love. Like, all of that, though, has led to what you're talking about, the fulfillment and the success. And, just out of kind of the world side of perspective, the perspective of kind of like everyone around, What's been like the most quote unquote successful thing that you feel like you've accomplished thus far in your career?
I think if we're talking material, I would say probably being able to purchase a vehicle and pay it off by using only my voice. So that was
That's
a big thing
freaking
for me.
cool.
I mean, I'm pretty proud of myself.
I mean, you should be. That's
It's a big
it's
deal.
huge. That
Yeah,
is so huge. I
yeah.
mean, it sounds like some people be like, well, whatever. But it's like, no, like that means that you have made a substantial amount of money
I
with
mean, it's not a brand
your
new car
voice.
by any means, but it's like it's something it was the car that I really wanted. I was able to randomly get it, which I shouldn't have. It shouldn't have worked out that way, but I did. But it did, and I was able to pay it off just through singing. So I think, materialistically speaking, that's something that is really, really cool for me to see have happened within my career. And then as far as like the more important part of it, which is like the spiritual, the emotional kind of success that I've seen. I mean, I would say just being down on Broadway, singing in a bar on Broadway. There's a particular time in our set where usually my guitar player goes and takes a little break, and I sing an a cappella song. Generally speaking, I sing "Make You Feel My Love," and
Oh,
it's
great. It's a
yeah,
great
Bob
song.
Dylan.
Yeah.
I do the Adele version, and I mean, I'm playing on a busy Broadway, crazy busy Broadway in Nashville on often a Sunday afternoon, and I can sit there and sing in my microphone, and the room goes dead silent because I'm able to put so much emotion and heart into it that people like stop and they listen and
That's
they're
incredible.
quiet. So that the fact that I'm able to capture that attention for 3 whole minutes, which is a very long time to pay attention to anything these days.
Mhm.
Um, and also like people scream and cheer after, which tells me that like I'm affecting them in some way. I'm moving them somehow. And I think that's the most important part of my success is making people be able to connect with themselves because we're so connected or disconnected from who we are. And
Mhm.
if I can bring you back to yourself for a little bit and make you feel something, then I think I've done my job okay.
That's
So
incredible.
yeah,
I love it. Yeah, I mean, that's so freaking cool. And, the coolest part about all of this is, like, is that you're kind of at a new beginning right now
yeah,
with your brand new single, dropping May 27th,
yeah,
and kind of turning this chapter, which is super exciting. So I kinda wanna talk a little bit about that with the single, 'cause I mean, obviously, like there's a lot to the single. I love that kinda Southern rock country
yeah,
vibe. It's just so much fun with the slide guitar and a
yeah,
lot of soloing. It's like, "Oh, this is fun." It just kinda feels like true country, right? Like, the stuff that I always grew up listening to,
yeah,
not the poppy stuff that
yeah.
I'm not a huge fan of, but
Like the
so
old school stuff, you mean? Yeah,
yeah, the old school, it feels just like it feels honest, I guess, is kind of the right word for me.
yeah,
So tell me a little bit about the single, "Save Myself." Tell me a little bit about kinda like the background of it and I don't know, maybe the story that you have
yeah.
about it.
Well, basically, how it was written. So I got into a room with two guys called Don Miggs and John Luzzy, and we had been chatting kind of previously before we got into the studio and just kind of texting back and forth, talking about kind of like what we were wanting to write about and where we were wanting to go. And I sent them some ideas for some poetry that I had written. And so I just kind of sent it through a text message, let them kind of chew on it for a little bit.
Mhm,
They had chatted with me about kind of like song direction and kind of to give them some examples of some songs. So I gave them the examples of like the direction that I was wanting to go and the stuff that I felt connected to. Cold was one of them actually, and then another
mhm,
one was it Sometimes by HER, and then some Adele stuff. So just kind of like trying to find a fusion between those kinds of vibes, right? Because
mhm.
those very much my feel and my those are my jams. And I'm like, if I'm going to sing this for the rest of my life on stages, I want to really like feel it.
And your voice
So
definitely fits that style for sure.
yeah, thank you. Then hey, quit it. Sorry,
No, you're totally fine.
funny farm over here. So then as far as the the lyrics and the content went, we took some of that poetic stuff that I had sent them, and once we got into the studio, we talked about kind of like some things that I wanted to say, and I really wanted to convey some stuff that I had been through in the last year. When I went through that spiral downward, I ended up uh, in a relationship that was so fast it probably shouldn't even be called a relationship. It was a situationship, but it was one of those things that like
Situationship. I love that.
um, it was one of those things that like I fell really fast. And the reason I fell really fast is because I was in a place where I was living in my parents' basement at 40 years old. I wasn't working. I had lost my sense of identity. And this person came along and was like, you've done all these crazy cool things and you've lived, like, I was back in my hometown. He's like, you've lived in the United States and you've lived in Nashville and you've done all this great stuff. And I was like, all of a sudden, like this popular Nashville girl again.
Yeah.
And we made really quick plans. I had known him for a really long time and we made really quick plans to kind of like be together. And those fell apart as quickly as they got started. And a big part of that was because I put all of my happiness on that relationship and on him,
Mhm.
and not looking for it within myself. And so it imploded. And of course, like anything, anytime you do that, it's gonna, if you don't have your own legs to stand on, how do you expect to be on somebody else's, stand on someone else's, And so that kind of made me spiral even more. And when I finally kind of got through the pain and the hurt of that, I realized that like there's a line in the song and it goes, you didn't save me because I couldn't save myself.
Mhm.
And then I broke my heart myself because I put so many expectations on that. And then there's a, how could you love me when I didn't love me? There's a few lines that are like, those are the
Yeah.
specific lines in the songs, but that's so true. How can we expect somebody to love us when we don't have love in our hearts for ourselves? Right. And so
Yep.
when I was chatting with the guys about that, we just kind of like, they're just typing away as I'm kind of spewing out everything I went through.
Yeah.
And we just kind of cut and pasted all together through some of the poetry parts in there. And Bob's your uncle. That's kind of how the song was
And
born.
Bob's your uncle. See, I mean, because that's what I was curious about. Because when we started talking and you were talking about that spiral, I was referencing back to the song and I was like, wait, it's called Save Myself. And I was like, I'd imagine that this was during her darkest moment.
Yep.
That this whole thing, because as I was listening to it, the song definitely doesn't sound like the vibes of the song definitely don't sound nearly as melancholy as what the lyrics are.
Yeah.
But when I was listening to it and then I thought back to it while you were talking, it did feel like a very introspective, like I need to figure this. I need to figure everything out is what
Yeah.
it felt like. And so it's really cool to hear that story. And when you were putting these pieces of poetry, was this all, or were these like multiple poems that you had written that you kind of pieced together, or how is that?
No, one was specific. It was just one big specific chunk of like, so I kind of, when I
Oh,
do
okay.
my lyric ideas, I do like little chunks here and there. And
Okay.
it was, so this one was kind of like a big long piece of like what I wanted to say. I'm also like very into the moon and like the full moons and following lunar phases and astrology and all of that kind of stuff. And I really wanted to kind of put some of that part of myself into the music as well, because it's very much a part of
Mhm.
my brand. It's who I am. I'm up doing my morning meditations every day and I've got my meditation music on and I'm burning my sage and my incense. And it's a big part of my things that I do for myself that keeps my
Yeah.
mental sanity. And um, I really wanted to include that in my music somehow because I grew up really, really Christian and used to be a Pentecostal worship leader. And so a lot of music I did was very God centered. And I
Mhm.
kind of wanted to keep it that way, but also I have a different type of relationship with God now because it's much more spiritual and not so religious. And so I wanted to kind of, I know a lot of people that have been in my situation where they've grown
Mhm.
up in church and now we're kind of finding our own path, so to speak. And so I wanted to really incorporate that um, so that there's some inclusion there for that kind of a thing. It's authentic to who I am, and I know that it's authentic to some others too. And I know that it'll resonate with people, and maybe again bring some healing and help people kind of realize that you don't have to be in a church to know God,
Yeah.
and that God is without and within, and all of those kinds of things. I wanted to incorporate all of that stuff in the song as well as my journey. So
That's awesome.
yeah,
Yeah, I think one of the big problems in the world is people feel like they can discount God and write him off. And I'm like, man, you got to just remember, like, God isn't the religion, like the church you're going to. It's not the
no,
people at the church, particularly. Like the people at that church are far from being there, right? It's like,
yeah,
and I'm constantly trying to like think that through. It's like, no, I need to have God within me, right? Like I need to have that. So I
yeah.
love that. That's really cool that you incorporated that. And um, I'm assuming that during this period there was some other future songs that have been written and started to be prepared. What kind of stuff can fans expect?
Well, the next song that's coming out is it's called Mistakes, and it's kind of about a few different things rolled into one. There's a lot of disheartening things going on in Canada, which is a big part of the reason why I'm down here. And I find it a little nerve wracking just because I'm a quote unquote conspiracy theorist, according to my family. All the conspiracies are coming true right now. And I'm kind of like, I mean, did I just know these things beforehand? Or you never believed me? Was I right all along? Or was I conspiracy theorist the whole time? Who knows? It's not really, it's neither here nor there. But it's about kind of some of the things that I've been watching going on up there. One of the lines in the songs is I literally just sang it today, and I'm totally drawing a blank. But it's something along the lines of like, "Oh, you do what you're told, and nothing will change," right? And it's kind of like the whole purpose around that is that you should be questioning the things.
Mhm.
You don't have to disobey. You don't have to be anti-authority or anything like that, because I do believe that we have some structures put in place for our safety, and I think that that's okay, but it is okay to question those things and check things out for yourself and fact check. And we have like a world of knowledge, whether it be correct or incorrect, at our fingertips. And you do have the resources to look things up for yourself. And if you're worried
Mhm.
that it's wrong, go check a book out at the library.
Yep.
So there's that, and then it's also about. I wanted to do a positive connotation on the word mistakes, because I think that making mistakes is how we learn and grow and how
Mhm.
we become better versions of ourselves. Yet we're stuck in this weird twilighty kind of yeah, where there's a thing called cancel culture,
Yep.
and we're not allowed to be imperfect humans, which is exactly what we are. And I find that infuriating,
Yep.
because how are we supposed to do better until we, make mistakes?
Yep.
So it's kind of like go out and make the mistakes, because that's how you're going to become who you need to be, is by making those mistakes, like the mistakes aren't a bad thing. Mistakes are how we learn. And if you're not making mistakes, you're not doing anything and you're not
Yep.
moving forward. You're staying
Yep.
stagnant. So that's what the next one is about. Which I'm super excited to release, because we just threw a couple big Kelly Clarkson notes in there, and
Heck yeah.
almost popped a blood vessel in my eye on one of them.
Yeah, when you're performing it live, "Oh, crap. Do I have it tonight?
I'm like, oh
Everyone
no,
locked it
what
down."
did I do this to myself? Um, so we're going to be doing a couple of songs like that, but the one after that, we haven't even started yet. I'm also very big on songs kind of come to you when they're supposed to, and the timing has to be right. And maybe I haven't experienced what I need to write about next, or maybe I'm experiencing at the moment, but the next one will most likely be even more exciting, because it's just kind of like I'm just writing them as they come, as long as my life journey continues to evolve, which I don't think that ever stops. So
Yeah.
yeah,
That's so cool. All
yeah,
right. I have a few follow-ups, before we get to the close here.
yeah,
But, first off, when did you start meditation? Um, I love meditation. I think it's one of the
yes.
most healing things. I have gotten myself really far down this whole rabbit hole. I do the cold shower thing. I
I
do
love
the
it.
you know
I
what I mean? I'm all in, right? Like I do the intermittent fasting, I do the meditation, I do the
I love
cold
it.
showers, right? But I'm curious, like, how did you get into that?
Honestly, I think that it started when I was younger, because I was involved in church. So it started as prayer.
Mhm.
And we would go to prayer meetings, and like, I mean, I was heavily involved in the youth group that I was a part of, and I was a worship leader in the youth group and stuff like that. And so it was kind of required of me to be involved in these prayer meetings. And I actually kind of like learned that prayer and meditation they're very similar. And
Mm.
excuse me, once I kind of moved into more of a spiritual style of life, and a little bit more learning things like a little bit more holistically, I started doing more meditation and journaling. And I would say that was probably, I don't know, 5, 6 years ago now. And I'm still super inconsistent with it because my schedule's all over the place. But I definitely try to at least get in like 20 minutes to 25 minutes a day and just try and
That's
start my day with that.
that's impressive.
Yeah. I
I
mean,
mean,
guided
that's a lot.
meditation is the thing for me too, because I have a busy mind. And so I find the guided meditation just constantly brings you back down to
Yep.
the awareness of your breath and that sort of thing. So I use Jason Stevenson's guided meditation all the time. He's absolutely my favorite.
Okay.
So,
I don't
yeah.
I use what's the one called? Is it Calm? I think there's
Yeah, there's lots of good ones. I think he's got
yeah,
some on there too, actually.
yes.
I just pull his off of YouTube and I've gotten myself into the bad habit of watching TV before I go to bed. So I've been trying to switch to some like nighttime meditation. And it's amazing the difference in sleep that I get when I've got the TV on in the back for the background noise, or if I've done meditation and kind of fallen into like a hypnotic sort of sleep.
Yeah.
What difference, like the rest that your body gets.
Yeah. I just I typically don't watch a whole lot of TV. I like watching movies, but I typically don't watch a whole lot of TV. And only recently my wife and like I try to avoid like really just kind of disgusting content, right?
Yeah,
But there's a TV show that I really wanted to watch because it looked really good, and so we bought this service that edits content for me.
yeah.
And so I've been watching the show The Boys, and I can't stop. So I just go to sleep. I'm like, last night it was like 12:30. I'm like, I gotta go to sleep. I gotta take my son to school in the morning.
See, I have a hard time with that because I will stay up all night, and we call it going to the bad place because
Yeah,
I will go to the bad place with a new show, but
yeah.
I do things when I'm sleeping. I do shows like I know Schitt's Creek in and out because I've watched it. Like, I love that show so much. Same with things
Got
like
some coworkers who love that
Friends.
show.
Yeah, and just like, and it just becomes background noise because I can literally play the scenes with my eyes closed, so I can I don't have to stress out about what I'm missing.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm like, wait, what did I miss? I don't have to worry about that with those shows. So
Oh yeah, that's
yeah,
me with The Office
yeah,
too.
yeah, right. It's
Yeah,
like that comforting background noise that you know exactly what's happening, so you can be in the kitchen and still know what's going on in the show, and you're not missing stuff. So
exactly.
yeah,
And one more follow up here for you. I was gonna go down the conspiracy theory rabbit hole,
we
but
can do that.
I mean I am curious which ones you're talking about, because one of the things that I have been so disheartened by lately is we've always been, North America in particular, we've always been kind of what you talked about, the kick against the pricks type people, right? We're not going to just fall in line just to fall in line,
Yeah,
right? Like we always had, like, even whether it was for the good or the bad, it didn't matter, right? We had the 60s with a lot of the hippie movement of, war, what is it good? I was literally singing that today.
yeah.
War, what is
What
it good
is it
for?
good for? Yeah, such
Exactly.
a
Absolutely nothing.
yeah,
Right. And I'm
absolutely
thinking like,
nothing.
right, like we've got this whole thing with Ukraine and Russia. And
Yeah,
then like we've got all these people, like COVID was a great example of just don't question anything, just follow. And I was like, I want to learn. I love Joe Rogan, and I obviously don't agree fully with everything he says, but I do love that idea of do some reading, do some digging. Like,
yeah,
yeah, there's going to be misinformation. And honestly, sometimes the misinformation is kind of valuable because it helps you to understand what someone else is going to think or someone else is going to quote, and you can actually use that as leverage in your discussion, right?
yeah.
Anyway, I've been very disheartened that there's so many people who are just kind of like blindly following lately. So I am curious with the conspiracy theory side, what you're thinking, what you were talking about.
I mean, I have a whole lot of them. I mean, I'm definitely the one in my family that's like, what do you mean? You guys are just gonna go get this done without doing some what? Do, do we know the side effects? And they're like, there are no side effects. What do you mean? I'm like, what? It's
It
how do you
literally just barely got done, right? Like it
yeah, my whole thing is like I just say this, follow the money.
Yep.
And they're like, none of that's true. I'm like, follow the money. Just follow the money.
Oh
It's
yeah, Hunter
all true.
Biden's laptop, it was not real.
No, I mean, even just like right down to things that like, I mean, I fully believe in aliens and stuff too, and I always have, because like how asinine to think that we're the only intelligent life form in all of the galaxies and all of the planets and all of this space and all of the time.
Yeah, I don't know if you're aware, but
I
is
mean,
it
that seems a little
Congress? Well, no, Congress is literally having a like an actual meeting about UFOs
yeah,
because there's
yeah,
so
yeah.
much unexplained stuff with the Pentagon that they're like, we need to actually discuss this stuff. And it's like,
That's what I'm saying is like
what?
I've always believed in aliens, and my mom's like, "Well, there's no aliens in the Bible," and I'm like, "Well, I mean, there's aliens in each ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics, so."
Hmm.
But just like things like that, where like nobody really, they're okay, Cash, you're the crazy one, and then COVID, the CIA releases all of the documents about Area 51. I was like, I told you. They're just like, I'm like, see, I just the things that I believe are not they're not all crazy. Some of them are just like, I can't accept that as truth because that doesn't make any sense in my brain. So
Hmm.
I kind of look at it from a different perspective. And they're like, my family loves the mainstream media. And I think that that's okay. It makes them feel safe and
Absolutely.
comfortable. Not me at all. I'm like, I'm being lied to. Somebody's lying to me.
See,
I'm going
but
to get to the
the
bottom of
thing,
this.
like the thing about it from my perspective is I'm totally fine agreeing with those things. Will not agree on the first go.
Yeah.
It's like, I just need like my wife and I are constantly telling our kids, if your teacher tells you to do something, it's okay to ask why.
Yes.
If your teacher
100%.
just says, if your teacher just says, "Hey, you need to sit down and be quiet," but why? I'm trying to learn here, right? Like I want my kids to question, and like
Yes.
my kid's been he got sent to the principal's office in first grade a couple times this year, and I'm like, you know what? I'm okay with that because
Question
you
everything.
are, yeah, question every single thing,
Yeah.
everything from everyone.
I
Never
think,
trust that everyone cares about you. They don't.
yeah.
Most people don't care about anyone but themselves, right?
Yeah, and what they can gain from the other thing too is, like, I think that especially, like, as when the curriculum started in, like, I would say probably the 50s, we were all just put in one box and, like, we're all these
Yeah,
academic people.
such a
But now
broken
we've
system.
learned yeah, now we've learned there's so many different ways of learning. There's so many different neurodivergencies. There's so many personality disorders and differences. And some people are right brain, some people are left brain, some people are creative, some people are academic. Like, there's no way that anybody should be put in that one little learning box because, I mean, had I had the opportunity to go to high school from 1 o'clock in the afternoon to 9 p.m. at night, just because I do better in the evening than I do in the morning, and had I had the opportunity to learn with more visual aid, I would have done way better than I did in high school because I'm a
Mhm.
visual learner, I'm a phonetic learner, and I do better at nighttime.
Yeah.
So I was kind of set up for failure to like never be able to do well in things like math and science because my brain doesn't work that way. And then I'm forced to do it on a time that feels really off on my own personal body clock. So,
Yep. Yeah, I'm in the same boat as you. I actually like been super privileged, like super lucky recently. Like last few jobs I had, I took a major like detour from my career path, quote unquote. Because I
yeah,
got my degree in business and marketing, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna do this. And then I ended up getting into sales, which is soul sucking
yeah,
and miserable, right?
yeah,
And ended up going off and doing software development and just took the whole like alternative method, right? Just like the boot camp and just really quick jumped in nitty gritty, just like I have no idea what I'm talking about, but I'll pretend like I do. And
yeah,
I've had some really awesome managers who are like, hey, as long as you're getting like the work done, like, yeah, you can work in the evening. Cause I was like, dude, like I do not work well. I can work great up until lunchtime. After
yeah,
lunch, I'm pretty much useless until about 8 o'clock at night.
yeah,
Like in terms of work, I'm great at a lot of things during that time. But when it comes to actually like sitting down and doing software development, I'm useless until about 8 o'clock at night. He's like,
yeah,
"Dude, no problem. Just do that." I was like, wait, really? He's like, yeah, just get it done. He's like, obviously, make sure you have Slack on your phones. We can reach out to you. But yeah, like as long as you're getting the work done and you're putting in the hours, I don't mind how you do it. I just think that especially if you're going to accomplish more, we'd actually be stupid to tell you to not do that.
right? That's the
Yeah.
thing is like some of my best work that I've written has been like we don't even get together in the studio and write before noon because I'm a dragon in the morning. Like, and I know
Mhm.
that about myself. I'm slow. I need to wake up slow in order to be able to have a successful day. And I also like when I play downtown, I don't play any shows before 2 p.m. because I know that it takes me a whole lot longer to warm up as far as vocals go and just even to
Yeah.
keep the brain on. But yeah, I can definitely like start a home project at 8 p.m. at night and be done by midnight. And I would
Mhm.
never be able to accomplish that if I did it at 8 in the morning until noon.
Oh yeah, I'm constantly like I build websites on the side. That's the only time I'm building websites. It's
Yeah.
from 9 to midnight. As long as I have like a TV show on or a podcast playing, I can sit there and just do creative stuff and just
Yeah.
do and it just I could just go 2 in the morning. I'm like, oh crap, I gotta get to bed. I got work in the morning.
Yeah, I'm the
Uh,
same way. I'm absolutely the same way. I'm trying to slowly transition a little bit to a little bit more of a decent bedtime so that I can get up in the morning and do things like, gym and meditation and some yoga and stuff like
and be
that.
an adult,
Yeah, I
No one
don't know
wants to.
super well, but we'll try it out for a minute.
Yeah, I've got an amazing wife. She lets me sleep in because I told her I was like, "All right, if you get up with the kids Monday through Thursday, my son doesn't have school on Fridays.
Yeah,
I will take him to school as long as I can get that extra hour of sleep." And so she's totally on board. I'm like, "Yes,
perfect.
conqueror." And it's like it's great, but it is like, man, I'm on that same type of schedule as you are though. Like my wife is like, "Are you not tired? It's 9 o'clock at night." She's usually in bed. I'm like, "What? Go
Yeah,
come on." Like it's just I'm ready to start a movie at 9 o'clock at
yeah.
night.
I know. When I was living with my parents over COVID, like there was like a rule. You don't when we wake up in the morning, I wake up at about 9. Don't speak to me like my mom is like the bright-eyed, bushy-tailed morning person. And I'm like, if I call her Vicky, she knows I'm serious because that's her like, I'm like, Vicky, you're talking too much right now. And she's like, I haven't even taken a sip of my coffee yet. And she's like, okay. And then, but the same thing, she'll look at me at like 8 o'clock at night and be like, shh, no more talking. I'm like, right, you're shut off now. So like
It's
learning each other's patterns, right? Like this time frame of like window.
this is the talking window.
These are the hours we can communicate. So,
Oh man.
but I
That
mean, it's respecting that as much for her as she's respecting it for me, right?
oh,
So
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah. And same with your wife. I mean, she's obviously thriving a little bit more in the mornings than you are. And
Oh yeah.
so why not use that to your advantage? Because then you can do the late night stuff with the kids too if you need to, right? So
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest, she's thriving all times of the day better than I am. But,
yeah, moms are magical. I will
I
give them that.
genuinely have no clue
Yeah.
how they do all that they
I'm
do.
not one yet at this point, and I'm not entirely sure I have that superpower. It might kick in if I ever decide to have one, but right now I'm just still kind of baffled at how they juggle everything.
Yeah, I mean, I like Friday nights are my wife's girls' nights. So I'm like,
Yeah.
"You take off." I get off of work, immediately she leaves. I'm like, "Perfect. I'll take care of the kids." I feed them, give them baths, put them to bed. And that's a 3-hour window. And then Saturday all day is dad and boys time, right? It's like where I'm hanging out with my boys, and Sunday same thing.
Yeah.
And by Monday I'm like, I need to get to work. I love my kids so much, but I am burnt. I
Yeah.
don't know how she does it 7 days a week.
Yeah. I know. I know. Moms are crazy magical, that's for sure.
Incredible. All right. I have taken a lot of your time, but
No, it's all good.
if you have a couple extra minutes, I always love to end with just random. Obviously, we've already been talking about random non-music stuff, but
Yeah.
do you still have a few minutes?
I do. I've got pretty much I mean, it's nighttime. I'm wide
It's
awake right
nighttime.
now.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you just barely drank some more coffee too.
I mean, in all fairness, this is decaf because I don't really do caffeine anymore, but I am still having some. There's probably some placebo caffeine somewhere in there. So,
Oh, yeah, that's a problem I have. I drink way too many energy drinks, but
yeah,
that's
I got to stay away from them. They make me a little too jittery. So
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. All right. So this first question is because I'm also a sugarholic. Right before this interview, I ate a giant, delicious chocolate chip cookie. It was
love it.
incredible. So what's your favorite candy and or dessert?
Um, this is tough because I'm not super into sweets. I'm more of a salty person.
Okay, well then what's your favorite snack?
Cheesies, Hawkins cheesies, hands down.
What the heck are those?
That's what most people say. They're really hard to find in the US. They're mostly like in the northern states, and in Canada, they're kind of
Okay.
like those spicy, crunchy cheesies, but they're just straight, like straight salty cheese. They're so delicious. So those
So
are
like a Cheez It?
um no, they're like a cheese puff kind of, but they're really small and crunchy.
Okay,
Yeah.
interesting.
Hands down my
Yeah, I've
favorite.
never even okay.
Favorite. I will find some and I will get you some.
I mean, sounds good. I mean, I have a buddy who is from, Quebec, and
Yeah,
he brought down freaking Lay's ketchup chips, which
yeah,
were incredible.
yeah,
Some ketchup Doritos, which were incredible. He brought down, like, all he's like, "Dude, you gotta try all this stuff." And I was
yeah,
like,
yeah.
"Please, more."
I think
And
I
All Dressed, I think, was the other one that
oh
he
yeah, all those
before we started getting them here in the US, like, he
yeah,
brought and they taste different. The All Dressed from Canada are very different than the All Dressed here in the US.
yeah,
But
I agree. I do miss some good old ketchup chips. That's actually my brother-in-law's favorite chip ever, and if they've got ketchup chips in the house, he's like, "Don't touch my chips." So
I mean,
so
I'm that way with my Tapatio Doritos.
yeah. See,
Like,
I'm not a Doritos big Doritos fan. Just the
are you a
cheese.
potato chip? Or no, just the cheesies?
Yeah, no, I do potato chips. I
Okay,
like the Lay's barbecue and the Lay's classic. I just like salt. I don't know.
okay.
Yeah.
Not salt and vinegar, though?
Sometimes depends. I
Sometimes, okay.
used to love salt and vinegar, but I've gotten to the point where I've had so many where I've like, uh, everything
Yeah.
burned, you
It
know?
cankers your mouth so bad. It
Oh
is
my god. I was like, "I
yeah.
can't stop. All the canker sores are burning, but I can't stop."
See,
So, we
that's
don't have stops
I
anymore.
don't eat them anymore because it the I tried them, I didn't like them, and then I tried some, and I was like, "Okay, I'll eat some more," and then I ate them, but then they become addicting,
Yep.
and I ate too many, and it cankered, and I won't eat them anymore.
Yeah.
Like, it was so bad. It was a
Yeah.
bad experience.
Yep. Yeah, I've done that to myself before too. I think I really had to go for sweets. I really like the, Justin's dark chocolate peanut butter cups that you get from Whole Foods and, like, the turnip like, the good expensive bougie stores, the grocery
Yeah, I
stores.
was about to say your bougie just came out.
Yeah. Well, my bougie I definitely am 100% bougie with food. Dude, like, so many food allergies, it's not even funny, and sensitivities, so I have to, like, really pick and choose what my poison is for that day, so
Yeah.
but those are one of my favorites just because 'cause I'm not, like, a big sweets person, so I find the chocolate isn't super sweet, and then they don't add a lot of sugar to the peanut butter. Because I mean, there's a big reason I don't drink caffeine either, is because I do a lot of sugary like, stuff in the coffee, and it ends up not only being jittery from the caffeine, but I, like, just burn out hard from sugar, so these are things that I've had to learn about myself that
Yep.
don't feel good, and I've had to make some choices to let them go, so,
I'm proud. I'm proud of
uh,
you. That's it's
I
I
miss it a
have
lot.
yeah, like, I've learned that the only way that, like, I've found balance is I do the long intermittent fast. So I
Yeah,
do 20 hours, no food,
wow.
just water. And then a 4-hour eating window where I kind of let myself eat whatever I want, but I get full so fast that it's not terrible. So
Yeah,
like I've eaten a lot less candy and stuff, but I say there's no limitations on what I'm allowed to
almost
eat
4
in those
hours.
4 hours. But the moment that 4 hours ends, which is 8 o'clock PM, you know, mountain time, I only water. That's
Yeah,
it. And that's the only way that I've been able to like stick to a quote unquote diet.
yeah. Diets are hard. I think that's why I really like lifestyle as far as, like, what you eat goes. I would say that I'm 80-ish% plant-based. For the most part, I don't do dairy is really hard for me as a vocalist anyways, because it causes a lot of
A lot
inflammation.
of the yeah, I've actually
Yeah.
heard that. Like, yeah, interesting.
Yeah. So I stay away from that. I always have to. It doesn't agree with my stomach anyways, but um I think that, like, there's some days where I really want some chicken or some, some meat or something like that, which happens very, very, like, few and far between. But when it does, I allow myself to have a little bit of it. And sometimes I'll have a little bit of blue cheese, but for the most part, it's like plant-based. It just makes me feel the best. And I've experimented with a lot of different things and what works for me. And that's just one of the things that I find is it sits well. So, and gluten free.
It's nice though, because obviously like that's not directly tied to the meditation and stuff. But the thing is like a lot of times when you start to understand yourself better, it's a little easier to make those choices because you
Yeah.
actually care more about yourself and you care more about like kind
Yeah.
of making things better.
Yeah. True. And when you start doing things like meditation and like connection to your physical body, you start feeling things more. And
Mhm.
you can feel more when something is disagreeing with your body because you're not just like going through the motions of eating, stuffing it down, and then going out and like, I know now that if I have like gluten, it's like if I'm like out having a hamburger, that's the end of the day for me. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Like that,
interesting.
I know that like my body's not going to react well to that. So yes, I can go and have the hamburger and it tastes good at the time, but is it worth the pain and the
Ruining the
suffering I
rest of
have?
your day.
Exactly. And having to be close to my home and like that's the end of me being out for that day. So
Yeah.
it's making choices like that that are like good and light and healthy and I know that I'm not going to have a bad reaction to because I'm so sensitive. Instead of taking that as like oh, I can't eat this, I can't eat that, I'm like, you know what, a cool thing that my body just gives me all of this information that's like so very black and white about what works and what does not. And
Yeah.
it's I think it's been, some people are like, how do you live? I'm like, I live pain free actually because I know what causes pain and what doesn't. How do you live? Like you're swollen all the time,
Yeah.
constantly complaining about knee pain and like eye puffiness. I'm like, that's all food based and lack of water. And so,
Yeah, I drink so much water. It's ridiculous. That's the
I
only
mean,
way that I don't get hungry throughout the day.
yeah, just having water. I think at the end of the day, if I ever was to give up music, which clearly I've tried and it doesn't work so well, but if I was ever to have a joint um, career, I think I would be in holistic nutrition because I find it fascinating what food can do to the body. So,
Yeah, it is really interesting.
yeah.
I've what's his name? I can't think of it. There's a guy who has a podcast. He has a bunch of doctors on all the time. He recently wrote a book, Tools of Titans?
Titans
Tools
of
of
Rituals,
Titans?
yeah. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Freaking loved it.
Yeah.
That's how I got into the cold showers and a lot of that type of stuff, you
That's
know?
Tim Ferriss.
Tim Ferriss, yep, yeah.
Yeah.
Because obviously Wim Hof, like, someone told me about Wim Hof, so I go and research this guy, and I'm like, "Cold showers," and I was, like, miserable, and I'm like, "Ah."
Can't do that yet. I'm like, two things make me a dragon: early mornings and being cold. So I have not conquered my inner dragon with the cold showers yet. I don't know if I can.
Yeah. I finally learned the only way that I can balance it is by starting off with a nice hot shower,
Yeah.
turning off the water, then washing, and then cold, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1,
Mhm.
embrace it, and
Yeah.
just suck it up for, like, the 5 minutes. It's 5 minutes, that's a
I
it's
I
pretty
don't know
much
if I'm ready to commit murder yet. So
Yeah, your bandmates are like, "Please don't ever do that." Just
no. No cold showers for you. We want to sleep tonight and wake up tomorrow.
Yeah. Alright, next one here for you. So
Okay.
sometimes it's hard to come up with your number 1, so if you need your top 3, that's cool too.
Okay.
But, favorite movie?
Almost Famous.
Oh, okay. That was quick.
Yeah.
Easy.
I'm definitely a sci-fi movie nerd too. I love that genre and I love anything medieval, but Almost Famous hands down my favorite movie. I feel like so connected to the 70s. I probably was alive in a different life at some point. Maybe I was Janis Joplin. I mean, wouldn't that be great? Um, but yeah, I mean, I that movie has so many things that I connect to and just like the
What's the
realistic.
reporter what like, the music
Yeah,
reporter or
Cameron
music
Crowe, and it's based
okay,
around
yeah.
his real experience with Led Zeppelin.
Yeah, okay.
And I mean, just the music alone, the flaws in the music that they use in the movie. Like,
Yeah.
there's one scene where they use "Every Picture Tells a Story" by Rod Stewart, and like, there's so many things that are off about that song as far as like how he would record now. Like, he comes in late, the drums are a little out of tune, some of the instrumentation, like it's just.
Yeah.
And there's nothing I love more than those things about that song because that's like what real music used to sound like.
I
So
kinda miss that with music.
me too. I miss the imperfections.
Yeah,
I
like,
absolutely do.
that's why I
Um,
love when drums are recorded in studio and they're not sampled. Like, it's just so nice. There's
yeah,
just something nice, like, even when they are almost perfect, right? And those ghost notes, but there's those ghost notes, and it just kinda feels like it feels real, and
yeah,
it's just I like that.
yeah,
Alright,
yeah.
last one here for you.
Okay.
So, thank you again. Obviously, awesome being able to talk with you. So,
Yeah, great conversation.
this last one is actually gonna be fun because
Okay.
obviously music is so big into who you are. This actually might be pretty easy because we may have talked about it, but, favorite non-music related hobby, something you love doing that has nothing to do with music.
Interior design.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I'm constantly changing my house and painting, and I'm actually like in the middle. Actually, I don't know if you can see. Maybe if I turn it this way, you can kind of see the spackle on my kitchen wall there.
Okay, yeah.
So I had some tiles up there that I put up there, and I hated it. So I took half of them down and was at a gig the other day. Went to Home Depot in my beautiful gig dress, running through the house trying to find spackle, and then climbed up on my ladder and started spackling my kitchen at 8 p.m. at night. So yeah,
Started at 8 p.m.
home decor is totally my jam. So that's definitely a hobby for sure, is like redoing house space, furniture, stuff like that.
See, that's the one problem that we have with our time though, right? With our lives, like, oh, I could start project 8. None of the stores are open at the time I need parts for like whatever I'm doing.
True.
Because like this little wood thing, I built this wood thing behind me. I had so much fun just like piecing it together and like
Yeah.
cutting all the pieces and just kind of putting it all together. And it's just like, but like the moment you need something, you're like,
Like,
crap.
I'm out of glue. Oh, that's where
Oh,
Amazon comes in, and you got to just leave it and let it sit for a minute and just get it shipped to your door the next day.
exactly. Oh
Yeah,
man. Well, Cash, thank you so much for your time.
of course. Thanks
Absolute
for having me.
pleasure and stellar music. I obviously listened through, all the way back to I think 2013 with your solo stuff.
Yeah,
I would say that my favorite one, probably because of the kind of relatability to what I was used to listening to. What is it? Backyard. What was that one?
barefoot in the backyard. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yep,
Yeah,
Barefoot in the Backyard, yeah.
that's a
That one
good
just
one.
kinda felt like a like, kinda that country, and I was like, "I'm interested to see where the new stuff," and then obviously, you kept a lot of that same it's cool because your music has actually stayed relatively, consistent
Yeah,
even though it's been 10 years between those songs and now, it's pretty cool.
yeah. Thank you. I mean, I feel like it's got the barefoot in the backyard has that good like summertime kind of vibe, and it's got that
Mhm.
old school like that country feel to it, and that was really like the type of music that was really coming out in Canada at the time. But I think the new stuff has got a little bit more of a pop vibe to it, and it's got a lot more soul, and I'm definitely a lot more authenticity about the lyrical content. So
Yeah.
yeah,
You, yeah, I mean, you're killer. Keep it up. I'm
thank
I'm
you,
super excited to see how things go, and thank you so much.
thank you.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah, great chatting with you for sure.
All right. Have a good night.
You too. Talk
All
soon.
right.
Bye.
Bye. Awesome. Awesome, awesome. What a cool conversation. That was Cash Crawford. Um, super, super talented. Brand new single, drops May 27th. So 2 weeks from this Friday for the live stream. And then obviously the episode will be dropping right around the time of the release of her single. So thank you so much for checking this one out. Catch you guys next time. Deuces.